The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another live Wednesday week. Now, as you can see, I'm putting my posh voice on because tonight's guest scares the absolute bejesus out of me. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure a big round of applause for Mr. Guy Branston joining us tonight. So, Guy, known as as an enforcing centre back, bit of a centre back myself, being a big lad, but I wouldn't want to mark you in a corner. I want you to tell us about your journey into football. Tell us about your journey around football and your time in South Yorkshire and the rest of it. What we'll do, we'll go around the room. I'll tell you what, Ben, as usual, do you want to kick us off?
I can do, but Dave, you were wanting to say about Leicester, weren't you? Which is where Guy started. So,
well, this is it. I mean, if we just built it all up to make it Wednesday oriented, we're going to have the whole career, and I'm going to go straight to Leicester City because that's where you started, Guy, if I'm right in saying. So you're a young man in a very sort of tough team at that time. What was it like when you've got, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you had a dressing room with Jerry Taggart, Steve Walsh, Matt Elliott, Ian Marshall. What was it like not to be the hardest guy in the room?
They were fantastic guys. The fact that I got to train with them and work with them was an unbelievable experience for me as a kid. You're talking about me being a 16-year-old, so give me time. I was growing up into something. I was about 16 when they were there. So, no, they were just good people. I mean, one of the toughest you didn't mention was probably Neil Lennon. Mm-hmm. His calves were huge. His legs were huge. He was a stocky Irish kid, real top talent on the ball and off the ball, and a fantastic guy. Marshy was unbelievable. He was a character, biggest man I've ever met in my life, considering, I've been around a lot of clubs. Mm-hmm. Matt Elliott was just a nice, placid guy, always smiling, always really friendly and happy. And Walsh I learned a lot off, and Jerry Taggart was again someone who kind of came out the blue. Mm-hmm. Probably my second or third year as being at Leicester, and inevitably I wasn't going to come through, and he was there to take my place with a lad called Phil Gilchrist. Mm-hmm. Went on to West Brom, and when I look back and question the so-called why didn't you make it at your own club and all the stuff like you do as a competitor, you can see probably why from time to time with the talent I had in front of me and the difficulties I was having myself off the pitch and in regards to staying focused on the pitch. So it was a real good eye-opener for me what professional football looked like with them characters bouncing around bollock naked in most of the dressing rooms, whatever you walked into, they were all naked. It was that sort of environment back then, but
it's like a pub.
It didn't scar me, and I can only remember fond memories.
I tell you what, those list of players that Dave mentions there, Guy, you must have some stories about them. You know what I mean? I don't know how much you can say live on Facebook, but like I can just imagine that group of players having like an after work fight club in the car park. You know what I mean, or something like that. You know what I mean? Because Jerry Taggart looked like some bloke from the pub, but was a elite professional football player. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, Jerry lived above a nightclub in Barnsley, I think, when he first started coming back from Man City, and there was just a togetherness that I've only seen replicated a couple of times across certain football clubs, and in my opinion, when I went to Sheffield Wednesday, a big thing that Chris Turner wanted to implement was the togetherness at Leicester City, because Chris had been there a year as my youth team coach at Leicester. So he knew a lot about me, knew about me off the pitch, on the pitch, knew about me as a character, and really wanted me to use that ability to galvanise and group together groups of lads that are probably different in nature, but use it and really harness a group spirit. And we kind of started that, I think, that Sturrock took to another level, fair dues to him. But we kind of harnessed that in an Ibiza trip, which I'll come to later on in this talk if you want me to. So going back to the Leicester group, there was just some really, really nice people that, you learn from them, and every day was a learning experience, and especially about cultures and about quality of togetherness They socialised together. They drank together. They fought together. They fought on the pitch. They fought off the pitch. But everyone kind of got on with it. And my youth team, we had some good lads coming through. Stephen Oakes went on to have a league career. Stuart Campbell went on to have a league career. Stuart Wilson played 40-odd times for the first team in the Premier League, went on and had a lower league career. Matty Piper was coming through as a baby who had to retire with his knee. There's a lot of TV now and radio. Emil Heskey, who everyone knows. They were my youth team group. So we were getting involved with the first team. So there's quite a few of us mixing with the first team group. And I was probably the worst out of that group, if I'm honest, to go and train with the first team. Because technically I was nowhere near them players. But, physically I was quite strong. And I'd go and tackle a wall. And they appreciated that in training. And I got kind of hauled in every so often by the gaffer to go and, kick someone up the backside or do something I needed to do and on the pitch, and then got hauled off again when I'd done my job after about 15, 20 minutes.
I love that. Now,
it was usually, I think I was usually chasing Robbie Savage in training for whatever pressing game we were playing or something like that.
Now, before Ben moves us on, you mentioned Emil Heskey. Now, I remember when Emil Heskey burst on the scene, and Leicester had a tremendous season when they during that year. Now, there was a rumor, and they spoke to, it was his dad who started this rumor, because I heard him on the radio once, and I never believed it, because when you look back on Emil Heskey, you look at the shape of the guy and you think, no, that can't be true. But he had a choice of whether he could be an elite level sprinter or a professional footballer, and obviously, because the money's a lot more lucrative in football, that's what he chose. I mean, because Emil, when he went to Liverpool, for example, changed as a striker, didn't he? Because he became the big number 10, like the telegraph pole that you spank the ball at. But when he first broke onto the scene, he was rapid, right? Was he that rapid?
Yeah.
I'll just make a note of that guy. Thanks very much.
There was Julian Joachim, Neil Lewis. I would say Jamie Lawrence at Bradford. Neil Lewis come through. He was a fullback, lost his way a bit. But Julian Joachim was up there. Julian burst onto the scene with Robbie Fowler in the Toulon tournament in the under 20s, and then went on to have a good career as a rapid striker. But Heskey was 6'3", probably 6'3" or 4", and just as quick as Julian, who was probably 5'5". So there was an element of, well, where's he getting this power from? And again, I knew him from, say, Sunday football as a kid, because that was the pot of players that were around then when I was playing against him, and I played a division low. That's how good the division high was that he played in. And the Sunday football back then was dangerous, if you want to call it that. It was very physical, very dogs on the side of the pitch, really in the city sort of environment that we grew up in as normal Sunday football. So Emil come from, I would say, a really nice area called Evington in Leicester, and I came from Braunston, which is a shithole. And you go over there and turn up at, say, a Sunday afternoon, go and try and play against their team. And he played for a team called Ratby and Gruber, which was another posh area. And he'd play anywhere. This boy was he's just a natural physical talent, but also unbelievably technically gifted. Could play right back, midfield, centre forward. He's just positive on everything he did. And the lad off the pitch was phenomenal. So, I can't rave about him enough. He was such a nice guy. His dad was a lovely guy. His dad was a doorman in town, so we always got him free. So I got to say he's a nice guy.
I
bet Jerry Taggart loved that.
What you say?
No one would turn you away, would they? No one's going to say, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Branston, you're not coming in tonight.
We're talking about seriously big guys here. I'm 6 foot. These are 6 foot 4s and 5s and bigger. I'm 100 kilos. They're probably 130, 140 kilos. Oh. So if it's going to go off, it's going to go off in a really war sort of style. But we never wanted to push extra kilos.
Christ,
there's some good stories come out of it.
Well, go on then. So like, you're in town. Jerry Taggart's probably 10 pints deep. It looks like a bitter guy to me. You know what I mean? So, you must have got up to some stuff when you were out in town. Yeah.
I shared I shared a journey home from Florida with Jerry Taggart, and I've never seen the minibar of a plane going long haul emptied by one man. By one man.
Just leave it there, pal.
Yeah, I get off, and as we're getting off, we must have half an hour on the forecourt waiting to be accepted onto the conveyor belt to go and get your stuff, you know. And he's sitting there on the plane, you know, twiddling his thumbs. Need another drink. I need another drink. And I'm going, well, we've only got half an hour. You can go and get a coffee, you know, like naive kid. I just turned 18. I'd just gone back into Leicester's camp, and they'd invited me to the American tour, Premier League American tour that we went to in Florida, which is an unbelievable experience, and obviously shared 10 days with them. And I'm sat next to Jerry Taggart and the main reporter, and Jerry's just proper cracked on. It's the end of season, he's having a good drink. Anyway, that half an hour, he must have done really, I can't even imagine how much the cost of the bottle of brandy he'd bought for his parents was, but he then drank that in that half an hour. And I've gone, like, I ain't a big drinker, and I don't mind admitting it. I had a drink on a Saturday night with the lads, but to then drink like that excessively is beyond me. Like, and to watch him do that put me off drinking for life, because I could just imagine the hangover. The worst thing about this, no banter, the worst thing about this was he got off the bus stone cold sober from the East Midlands at the time, to Leicester, which is about half an hour. He got off the bus stone cold sober after continuing to drink, and then offered me a lift home. And I'm going, nah, Jerry, do you want me to drive? I couldn't even drive at the time, but I was safer on the road. And he was like, no, I'm all right. Honestly, it's out my system now. It's out my system. So yeah, there was all them surprise elements of professional football. The Bournemouth trip later on, the pre-season following, I think we went to Greece and Bournemouth at the same season, if I remember rightly. And they were both unbelievable experiences, again, as a young lad, learning the ropes of top elite footballers.
Amazing.
So I'm just waiting for you lot to jump in.
No. Honestly, I could sit and listen to it all day. Vic, I'll come to you, and then I'll go to Ben. Go on, Vic.
Oh, Steve's chomping at the bit.
Yeah, Steve's jumped in. Steve even near the camera. I can see you, mate. Don't worry.
It's been a long day. No, you talk about these sort of drinking sessions and what have you, and the lads that go out and have it and get on it, sort of thing. What was it like the morning after in training sessions? Were they sort of were they able to get through them, or was it a bit of a heavy session?
I honestly, I probably stopped going out in the week when I was about 25, 26. I didn't really notice it affecting my so-called game. Personally, I didn't particularly drink a lot compared to others. So I would sometimes go out in the week and drive and take others out. Again, we'll go on to a few stories about the Sheffield Wednesday lads and the good ones and the good stories. But when working with the Leicester lads, there was Mondays and Wednesday club, which were good. And then they'd play on a Saturday and produce on a Saturday. But within the training sessions within the week, you kind of did well at the weekend. You got days off anyway. So there's manipulation of the I suppose, the rules and regs. And these lads could train the next day like nothing, you know, like it didn't affect them. We now know that there's an element of performance level dropping. We do that, we know that, but we knew that anyway. And we got on with it, and probably the relaxed element that some of these lads felt from time to time helped them in their game for the pressure that they're under. So I don't say it's the best thing to do. Trust me, because I'm not that way inclined. But I did look at some of them, you know, misplaying balls from time to time, wondering who they're actually seeing. But you learn to live with that as you were growing up, and you end up giving enough passes away yourself, so you can't really knock a top line elite athlete when he's had half a few the night before. And Lenny loved it. You know, Neil Lennon was unbelievable for it, and he'd sweat it out the next day and crack on Saturday and be man of the match.
Jesus. I'll tell you what, right then, do you want to go in, Vic?
Well, Ben will bring us in Sheffield Wednesday. I've just got a question from Facebook, but it'll kind of lead in from Sheffield Wednesday, I think.
Go on then, Ben.
Yeah, you mentioned the Ibiza trip under Chris Turner when you first joined, and I had read an article earlier where you do get a mention from John Paul McGovern saying that you were the practical joker. So, what tell us about it?
No, I seen a similar thing. I don't think I was. I thought I was quite calm. I was trying to be like, because Chris had warned me. Chris had said, "Look, you're only coming in." Because you imagine going from Rotherham in the Championship to Sheffield Wednesday in the division below. I didn't realise how big Sheffield Wednesday was, right? And I know it sounds ridiculous to a Sheffield Wednesday fan, but respect me when I say this, and respect me for the way I'm thinking, is because I've come from Rotherham in the Championship, right? And I've crossed the road, right? That's all I've done. I've crossed the road. I've gone from one side of the motorway to the other into this hotbed of you've just signed for Sheffield Wednesday. You've just signed for Sheffield Wednesday. I go over to Rotherham, no one hardly speaks to me. It's fine. Like, you go to the pubs and that's all dead relaxed. You go into Sheffield. Is that you? You Guy Branston? Yeah, Guy Branston. Yeah, oh, you just signed for Sheffield Wednesday. I watched you at Rotherham kill Lee Bradbury. Yeah, I've seen that. And like, they're beyond them. Like you're in Meadowhall, walking around Meadowhall, and the game's changed. You know, the whole game's changed. The whole layout's changed. So Chris had obviously told me, like, you're going to be a pretty like low end, famous footballer in Sheffield. And I'm like, fuck off. Just played in the Championship with Rotherham. That no one knows who we are. You know, turn up on a day and take 2-1 result and fuck off. That'd be done. And no one even speak to you afterwards. They won't even get a mention in the paper. We've won 2-1 and just move on. But Sheffield Wednesday was like, it was a big deal. So there was a mental shift in my mind that I had to go and like knuckle down. If I get this right, I could get back to where I think I want to be, and that's back in the Championship, obviously, with Sheffield Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So I took it very seriously, and he said to me, "Look, go on, mate."
Sorry, yeah, I was just going to say, did you find it when you talk about that switch from Rotherham to Sheffield Wednesday? You know, you'd walk around the zone. And you've not been bothered. You're kind of all right. And then going down the league, did you find yourself subscribing to it a little bit, and all of a sudden walking around Players Bar with your collar turned up and shit like that? Like, you know, you don't come across as that type of guy. Don't get me wrong, but did you start feeling it a little bit?
That hit me, mate. I'll be honest with you. Fuck all that. That's not me. If I went out, just like did my normal. Go out and enjoy myself. I weren't really that bothered. I found it quite intriguing that people want to speak to you, so I'd speak to them. So I'd spend a lot of time speaking to people from time to time, you know, in Meadowhall and places like that. I think it's a lovely thing. I think it's beautiful that people want to speak to you about it. I never ever had a problem with it. If anything, it's a pleasurable pastime meeting different people who have fond memories and fond things about their club. So I never took it as being disrespectful or cocky or anything like that. I just seen a massive difference in the influx of people wanting to speak to you. The regularity became more, you know. Don't get me wrong, Rotherham fans are unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. They still treat me so well now. And I can go to Rotherham and go out in Rotherham and get recognised, and they'll say hello to you, and I'll say hello to people that you see. But it's a small town. You know, this is a major city now we're talking about, and you're going into an influx of serious rivalry between the two clubs, which obviously one was miles ahead than the other one at the time, and we're trying to get back up there. So there's pressures on, and I liked that. That's why I signed there. You know, I couldn't wait to get started, and I didn't want to let Chris Turner down and Colin West, who I'd worked with at Rushden Diamonds. So these are guys who knew me, you know, personally, which I think is massive in recruitment anyway. Not because you sign your mates, but more so you sign the character. And I think that my character got employed a lot because of how I was as a person. Mm-hmm. You know, I could go and sit with just an example, Craig Rocastle, and then make sure Proudlock gets in the car safely because he needed help because he's a bit wild. But then I could go and get, you know, the Scots and have a bit of banter with the Scots about all sorts of things because we had an influx of lads turn up. And we, you know, it was just, I was that sort of person. So I wanted to make sure that I got where I got with it. And you know, I didn't, which was disappointing for me. But You know, I took a lot of plaudits out of a lot of them getting promoted because of the games I played in it. And, you know, I made some good, solid friends from the football club experience because it was a fantastic place to turn up and work.
I tell you what then, so we'll come to the promotion season in just a second and what happened after it. Well, what's the question from Facebook, Vic?
Okay, so the question from Facebook is from Martin, who says, despite Sheffield Wednesday's poor start to the season, did you have a sense that it would be a successful campaign? And was it difficult to tell with so many new players coming in at the time?
That was our thoughts on the difficult start to the season, because we had such a strong bond, and usually if you work hard, you get out of it, or either way, you know, if you're in relegation and you work hard, you can usually turn it around. And vice versa, you know, if you're having a bit of a stinker in form, get back to the training pitch, you know, work incredibly hard, you get out of it, because usually quality tells.
Mm-hmm.
So the big thing that I always hear about, like Sturrock and things like that, Sturrock added another level to our fitness levels that I've never seen before in football. And if anything, it's probably detrimental to me physically, because it didn't work on periodization, it worked on just throttling you in regards to running. And physically, I was like, what the fuck is this? This is ridiculous. And I made that known because, you know, I'd gone from Rotherham, where we were incredibly fit, we'd had back-to-back promotions and kept in the championship. I'd never seen any running like that, to then Paul Sturrock's running, which was like, what is this? It was like painstaking. It was hamstring pulling. It was hurtful. It was, you know, driving you to the point of falling over with your training sessions. And then day of a game, we were training as well. And I was going, are we thinking about this physically? Like, we've got some older lads in this team, you know, we need rest as well as, you know, running. But I made that known. And again, that's my character. I'm just that sort of person. But going into I suppose the question, it's a really difficult one to answer, I'll be honest with you.
Surely, like the move from Rotherham, so you did drop down, obviously, too, as you went on loan a little bit while you were at Rotherham. But why would you do that drop if you didn't think you were going to come back up?
Yeah, I wasn't.
Don't make him angry, Vic. He's massive.
Oh, right. I don't know why I said that. I'm so sorry.
No. Yeah, but listen, it's a valid point, but I don't think I was dropping down. If anything, I was stepping up to a massive football club. You know, I'd gone from, I suppose, travelling around doing what I was doing to being really settled up north. My brother had moved up north. He met a lovely girl. They're still up north now. You know, they'd moved to Chapeltown. I was living in Rotherham. I ended up buying a house in Sheffield. I moved to Hillsborough, got a flat in Hillsborough. You know, I just loved the area. I loved Sheffield. I had 5 years there and kept my answers for a few more years after that. So, you know, I didn't see it stepping down. If anything, it was a step up for me personally because of the club and where I was going after some really good successful seasons. I was mistreated at the end by Rotherham, the way they treated me personally. It was very old-fashioned. You know, we'll just keep him in the corner, and I believed again that they should have treated me better at the end of it after I'd helped them get promoted, you know, back to back, and I felt like, you know, they were taking a piss, if I'm honest. So I was quite happy to leave at the end of it, which was disappointing. And you know, we were in the championship on what I think my most I ever earned at Rotherham in the championship was £1,200, you know, a week. And
wow,
exactly. And it's yeah, I know it's scary to think, but we was playing against lads on 30 grand a week and competing, and even when I've watched in the pandemic some of the games that they've put on live, and I've gone, I was a good player, you know. Like, I'd forgot that. Like I was all right, you know. I was strong. I was pretty quick because obviously I didn't even remember me being that quick. And I'm keeping up with some like good championship strikers here on a regular basis, and I'm going, how come I didn't earn any money out of that deal? And then I'm thinking back, you know, Rotherham just didn't pay.
You were there for quite probably like one of the longest points of your career, weren't you? So there must have, I mean, what attracts someone to stay in Rotherham that long?
Well, listen, Rotherham's a great place. You know, honestly, I had 3 or 4 good years there. hey, midweek it was always about Sheffield. Don't get me wrong, because again, I had an amazing time there. But at the weekends, it was all about Rotherham. So you made sure that you tried to live your life as much as you could within the area you're in. And like I said, you cross over the road, you're in a major city. You cross back, and you're in a nice, nice little town. And there were nice people to me. So I can only go off how they treated me.
Ben's still stuck there. Ben's taking one for the team, aren't you, Ben?
Hey, I grew up in Rotherham. I like Rotherham.
The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.
Now, I tell you what, listen, Guy, I'm gonna get you back into the story time right now. I've made notes. I don't know what this is. It looks like I've got my national record of achievement, doesn't it? I tell you what it is. So we had Matt Hamshaw on the show back in the first lockdown, and I'm sure we'll get onto this later. But this is not the thread I want to pull at. He was talking about the way the promotion team was pulled apart at the end of that season, but we'll get to that in a bit. What I want to ask you about is that there is a moment that Matt talks about that promotion season where you said there were some Scottish lads come in, like people like Lee Peacock. You had a few other lads coming in, and apparently you bet him how many pound coins you could fit up your hand.
What about that?
He said there was like 22 quid up there. I'm like, as if I'm not asking him that.
That's Matt Hamshaw's best banter, I think.
Yeah, that's it. That was his best story.
Tricks. It was a party trick that sometimes I had to pull out to get some money in my pocket, and the lads never wanted the coins back, so I'd probably make 22, 23 quid a shot. And it used to work out quite well in my favour. I did it most summers for the majority of the summer.
Did you do it every week at Rotherham to top up your wages?
Yeah.
And made sure I come back with more money.
I'll tell you what.
Remember, we had Ken Booth then, though. We had Ken Booth, and he was a scrap metal man, so he never liked paying anyone.
So when you're talking about earning 1,200 quid in the championship, you were supplementing it every week with an extra £22 bonus, like, you know what I mean? And I tell you what,
that's once. I was doing this like 4 or 5 times a day.
Give me a pound.
So no. The lads used to say, like, Brano, come on, Brano. And it used to get to a stage where I was doing it like all the way through the holiday, through the day whilst we all getting steaming. Come on, Brano. Surely you get 24, 25. And I'm going, well, I don't know about that, lads. Euros, probably.
I bet you never get stuck at Morrison's, do you? You've always got a trolley. Just pop one out.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you're right. I did get some stuck once, and I had to go and see the doctor. He got caught right at the back of the sinus passage, and it started going near my eye, actually. But no, there's loads of stories like that we did. I mean, the Ibiza trip was an eye-opener to some of the ones, and Matt being Matt was like, he was like a vicar as a footballer, wasn't he? He was like, he was the pastor you go and see within the club, or he was just Mr. Serious for me, and like Mr. Serious at the club, and I was like, fucking lighten up, mate. But he shared a room with me, and I think it mentally scarred him when Proudlock turned up and he'd shit in like 2 baskets of bread baskets, and he put 2 baskets outside the door, and he did it every day for 7. Well, I think we're there for 5 days. He did it every day for 5 days in various different people's rooms in bread baskets. So of course he did it to Hamshaw, and Hamshaw was scarred. I think he was like torn to pieces on that. But these are the stuff that people don't realise go on.
Don't think I'd have wanted it to be my room after day 4 or 5 of the holiday. I can't imagine that would have been a very nice thing to leave in a basket.
I know, but it was like I said to you, it was a get to know meeting. It was a get to know week, and we got to know each other. And look, Chris Turner I knew anyway from Leicester, and he liked to have a drink, and he wanted the lads to have a drink, but he wanted the lads to have a drink when the time was right. So we grafted all week. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a particularly I would say physical week, in regards to game time, but we worked hard on the training pitch for 4 or 5 hours a time on 4G, 3G, and it was incredibly hot. And we ran a lot, and I mean a lot. And we then played the games. I think we played Watford, Ibiza, and Preston, I think the games were. And we got to the final, and he was really pleased with us because obviously we looked like we were galvanising and getting together. And he said, "Look, can't go out." He says, "Sheffield Wednesday, the biggest club out of the lot, even though, like I said, Watford were there, Sean Dyche was there, we were playing at the time, Watford, Preston were there with Craig Brown at the time." And I've gone, "What? You can't go out, Gaffer?" He's gone, "Can't go out." I says, "You've been out every night." He went, "Yeah, I know, but, I'm the manager." I went, "Yeah, I get that, but the lads have done great. Look, I'll personally take responsibility if anyone plays up. I've spoke with Lee Bullen, and if anyone I'll personally take responsibility, but I don't see the lads messing around. I see you've got a great, good set of lads here. You've done fantastic and I was absolutely blagging. I'm thinking, I desperately get out. And of course, me and Lee Peacock and Lee Bullen said, "Look, lads." Well, I said, he said we can't go out, but if you behave, I'm sure we'll be able to get out anyway and have an hour. But make sure we stay one side of the island. Don't go where he's been going out. So we got the bus man who was looking after us, and he was basically the concierge. I went, "Where do we go?" He went, "Oh, there's a nightclub down the road called Pasha." I went, "Oh, yeah." He went, "Well, I can get you in. Don't worry about that." Of course, the lads went out, and a lot of them didn't come back in the morning because, young lads, Ibiza, going missing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I see it must have been Richie Evans, Craig Armstrong, Louis Marn, all walking back in the morning. And I got up early after the night out, and I was feeling sick, Red Bull and vodka sick, all on my chest. Pradlock was in my room. Amshaw was asleep in the skip because I think we kicked him out halfway through the night. Dave Lucas was in my room. And I've gone, missing a few players here. I'm counting them in the morning for breakfast. And I walk through reception. Who's in reception? Chris Turner. He's asleep on the sofa, all wrapped up like that. And I ain't done this on purpose. I'm just on my sofa. He's all wrapped up like this. He's got his pants on. His trousers are all neatly folded at the end of the sofa. And this is the manager telling us the night before that you shouldn't be going out, but you're not going to behave. So we go on the bus. Anyway, I wake Chris up and say, "Look, Chris, you're gonna have to come and take training." He went, I can't take training. I can't take training. I went, "Well, who's going to take training then?" He went, "Well, look, just get him on the bus and we'll figure it out." So we're waiting, and we must be half an hour late, and we're still about 4 or 5 lads down. And this is, now I'm figuring out, it's Paul Eckeybottom, Lee Peacock. Did I say Lee Peacock's in my room?
Mhm.
It was, oh yeah, of course. Proudy's in my room. Lee Peacock's missing. Eckeybottom's missing. Louis, Evo, and Craig Armstrong. So we're still waiting on the bus for them. This 45 minutes in. Chris turns up. We're late for the last day. We've got to catch the plane later on, and we're going on this bus. And he went, "Right, fuck them. They're not here." I says, "All right, well, look, Gaffer, look, give them 5 more." No. If they don't want to, I said to you, you weren't going out. You said to me they'd be great, they'd behave and everything. These 5 lads ain't fucking turn up. It's your fault. I said to Gaffer, "Look, yeah, you're right. I did say I'd take the blame, but realistically, these lads should be here, shouldn't they?" He said, "I said, look, give 5 more minutes." Anyway, they didn't turn up. 5 of them missing. We thought, what do we do? And we had the secretary now is Lindsay. I think Hilton, is it? Lindsay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Lindsay.
Still there.
Lindsay at the time was the PA, right? She was our first PA. And we got, "Lindsay, what do we do?" She went, "Oh, I don't fucking know. Chairman's going mad. Dave Allen's going mad." I says, "Fucking that don't surprise me, does it?" Moaning again. And he wanted to fine us all also. Anyway, so we're getting the coach, right? No banter. We're in this coach, and all we see bursting around the corner is 4 lads, right? Sprinting with their gear on, their ripped t-shirts, dodgy jeans, and big hair, because that was the look then, 2004. Big hair, blonde hair streak like that, and really shit clothes on. So they're running, like chasing the bus. Cool. Chris is laughing his head off. He's going, "Brilliant. Speed the bus up. slow it down. So these lads are thinking they're going to catch the bus, then it speeds up again. And these lads are going. It kept it going for about 3.5 miles to the training ground. Make them train in the clothes they went out in and sweat all the booze out. But we still one player missing, right? So we go down to the local Tavos, where it was, for a bit of snap afterwards. The lads are still in the training gear. The lads are still in their clothes from the night out, trained all in their clothes, right? We go to the local tapas bar. Who's on the beach? Delirious, out his mind, still not been home, still not trained, not even in the clothes he was in the night before. Paul Ickybob. Paul Ickybob had been missing for nearly 48 hours. Paul Ickybob had. He'd been missing for 48 hours. He said to me, I still have laughs with him about it. I said, what happened that night, mate? What happened? And he was going, you know what? I still don't know. I'm in a taxi with Hillcock. The taxi stops. He opens the boot and I can't remember much else. I went, what happened? Did you get kidnapped? He went, no. I just remember him opening the boot and it all going dark and dingy after that. I went, did you get kidnapped? He went, no. Anyway, he never got on the flight on the way home. I don't know where he kept having blackouts all the way through the rest of the trip. Story.
And that's Paul Eckenbottom who went on, to manage Barnsley and Leeds. He had like a respectful career essentially, didn't he? Now I tell you what, while we're on the subject of these,
funny enough, that's the Paul Ickybotham. But that's the Paul Ickybotham who never answers my calls now when I ring him up.
No, I'm not surprised.
Because I know
telling that story.
Because them stories can kill a man. Them stories can kill a man.
Yeah, you're gonna end up in the back of a taxi now just to keep your silence on that one, mate. You know what I mean? Ben, let's stay on the subject of some of these stories because I know Ronnie Moore has told a few.
Yeah, it were on Under the Cosh. I don't know if you might have seen it with Ronnie Moore. He obviously he had quite a good relationship with him from what it seems like from that interview with him. And he's told the story about you punching a referee's door, which almost killed you, it seemed like. When your arm's gone through it and you've cut your arm.
Isn't that funny, Victoria? Isn't that funny? I nearly died.
You know, earlier,
like
right?
Laughing, going, yeah.
Before we came on air, he went, "Oh, I've got this story about how he nearly killed himself." I was like, "Don't bring that up, Ben! Like, Christ!"
Yeah, bring it up. It's Mental Health Week. Bring it up. Let's bring that out. Now, unfortunately, true story. It was I just signed there from Leicester. I had a period of time, a loan period of time where it was all going great, and they wanted to sign me. They wanted me to, sign, and we'd already discussed it. And the last game of probably the loan was Hull away, and we went there, and I got stamped on within the game, and I kicked out, got sent off, walked down the tunnel, and just punched the door. And I had a habit of doing it as a kid. So I kind of regressed back, I used to punch, the kitchen door, whatever, like you do as a kid, big thick set thing, just get out of the way. Like punch the door, pissed off, kick the door, however you do. And it's probably a male thing or an adolescent thing, but I actually reacted that way to the door, and I didn't know it was a referee's door. There was no sign on it. So I pulled my arm out and punched it again. And I just walked off, and literally, I can, like I said, I remember it vividly. I was so fuming. Sat down, started having me drink, and obviously me right hand. Started having a drink with my right hand. I felt this shooting pain down my arm, and then I looked at the floor, and literally, I must have been in shock or something, because I looked at the floor and seen all the blood on the floor, and I've gone, "Oh, where's that from?" And I'm going, "Oh, someone must be injured in here," and I start walking around the room. And that's where the story comes from. Because I lost a lot of blood and didn't go and seek help because I didn't really remember it that way. I remembered it that I was just walking around the room delirious, and I was in shock, obviously. So then I walk out the room, and I remember seeing a big striker I used to play against called Colin Alside, who was like 6'3", 4", and he took one look at me and like passed out because my arm's like spraying out. And I've gone, what's up with it? Like, I didn't even realise, what's up with him? So I've walked over him, to get to the doctor, because obviously I'm feeling this pain in my arm, but I couldn't see the blood. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I couldn't see the blood. I couldn't see what I'd done to my arm. It was like, I said to you, I was in like a shock or something. And of course, I said, I've got this terrible pain in my arm, and I've just obviously had a problem getting sent off. I need to see a doctor or something. And they're like, can't you see what's happening to your arm? And I'm going, like, I'd lost loads of blood or whatever. And I looked down and I finally twigged that my arm was bleeding really bad and there was a massive flap. So we got my flap all sorted. And when I sat on the bed, and like I'd lost loads of blood, and we got shot to Hull Hospital. And I was supposed to be going out in Leeds that night with the lads. And I must have still, because I had an old big dodgy mobile phone back then, you know, the big one, massive one. And I was ringing round for ages, like, the lads, look, yeah, we can't make it tonight. Yeah, I'm in hospital. Yeah, sorry about that. And it weren't until the next day I realised like what I'd actually done to my arm, about the 70 stitches and all the glass that was in it. And
70?
And the door, yeah, 70, yeah, I've got a massive scar on my arm. It's like a big W now. Wanker, honest. It's like a big, and I had or Wednesday, you could say Wednesday, couldn't you? I put Wednesday on my arm on that side, the glass and that, you know, that. But no, it was not saying that's a good thing to do. To a listener.
Quick disclaimer: it's not. We're not the you know, the what was it? One Direction fans. We're not cutting for Harry. You know what I mean? Let's.
It was a horrible thing to do and a stupid thing to do, and I regret it to this day of doing it. But again, it was something that I just had in me as a kid, and you know, not punch out and get disappointed that way. And I felt sorry for wasting the time of the obviously my gaffer and fans, and I was so disappointed with myself next day when I'd done it. And it kind of pushed the decision forward from Ronnie to sign me. To be fair, he loved it. He was like, he loved telling stories about it.
Well, I tell you what,
he was like, oh, here he is.
It's weird. It's weird talking about Ronnie. Now, before I go back to the other guys, I'm just going to pile on Ben's point there. There's a story that Ronnie tells on the Kosh where somebody cuts in front of a queue in front of you, and I want to say Ian Brecken was there as well, and there was four of them getting a bit shirty. Do you know which story I mean?
John Brecken. Ian's
John Brecken. Sorry, my apologies.
That's all right. Ian's the ex-player. Ian's his nephew.
Right.
Good player, Ian.
So
Ian's a good player, Ian. Well, listen, that's unfortunately something that did happen. He remembered it wrong, but there was definitely a bit of hassle.
Well, the way he tells it is that there was four lads that were getting a bit shirty that had pushed in, and you being the social justice warrior that you're obviously renowned as, Guy, has gone, hey, you, that's impolite to push into this queue. And then they were all stood up.
It sounded like a song there, didn't it? It sounded like you were about to sing. Hey, you.
Hey.
It's just, it was how I was as a kid. It's, you know, again, I never took on board probably the position I was in as a kid, and probably should have. You know, again, if we had picture phones back then and mobiles of they're now and Snapchat, and I'd be probably in prison.
You'd have played for more clubs because more would have sacked you. Do you know what I mean?
Nah, but you got stitched up a lot when you were playing, when you were out, and that people couldn't wait to stitch you up to the club, and people were jealous, you know, and that's what I found, you know, a lot when we was out, and a lot when we was in and around, say, Rotherham or Sheffield or Leeds, and they got wind that there was football lads there, and the young lads get jealous. So we ended up having a lot of hassle going out, and I was always brought up that way, that, you know, you look after yourself the best you can, and you try and talk your way out of it. But if it gets to the stage where you're being attacked, you've got to protect yourself. And there's plenty of times when I personally got attacked for my size and who I was, and there's plenty of times when I had to protect myself, and I never wanted to start trouble in any shape or form, because I'm as sociable as the next person with a group of people, you know. But if I ever felt injustice and things that, like Ronnie was telling the story of, you know, I'd willingly say something to somebody, because that's how I am as a person now. But, you know, there's ways of managing my youth that I would have changed, and that's probably one of them. You know, I was a bit too forefront, and willing to say things a bit too many times when I should really have walked away. And that's probably one of them times when I should have walked away on holiday. And again, you see these lads now who say have scraps and you get punched and, you know, they bang their head and the whole thing happens and, you know, they end up going on a court case. And, you know, I've got punched no end of times and fell to the floor, and it could have been me and could have been a friend of mine. And worst things, you know, it's so dangerous to go out and do stuff like that. And as a kid, you feel no fear, and sometimes you think you're a bit invincible when you had a few drinks. So rightly so, I deserved a punch from time to time, and rightly so, some other lad deserved a punch. So it's one of them things.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Steve, you've done your lean forward, Steve. I assume you've got a burgeoning question.
Not really. To be honest with you, I think he's covered a lot. I'm really into it seems that you've got such an affinity for Sheffield Wednesday, relatively speaking, because you spent a lot of time at Rotherham. You didn't spend so much time with us. How do you see things going at the moment with Sheffield Wednesday? Are you still in touch? You're still following us? You're still sort of observing what's going on?
Cool.
How do you feel things are going at the moment?
I drive past the ground whenever I'm in Sheffield, and you know, still get a tingle of that I've played there, sort of thing. And you know, I do that at Leicester City. I do that at a lot of stadiums. But Sheffield being so special with the fan base that it's got, and the way I was treated when I was a player there will always stick by me. And so you're always going to follow the big clubs. It's probably the only real disappointment in my career that I've had, of not being able to fulfil what I thought I'd started to fulfil. I got the silly sending off against Tranmere, stamping my authority on a centre forward, and got sent off for stamping, funny enough. And I ended up, you know, going and playing really well for a good period of time then after that. And Sturrock come in and kind of changed that thought. And I didn't like a lot of the stuff he was doing. I didn't like him, really, if I'm honest, the way he treated me. I didn't like him the way he was as a person, which I'm big on, you know. And I knew that working for people I don't want to be around, I'd already done that for a long period of time in regards to being at Rotherham for a few years where they were treating me bad. And, you know, I hear some of these like footballers now saying they get treated bad, and, you know, you could treat people bad back then. You know, you could actually like section them off of the team, and you can't come in at certain times, and, you know, you're on your own train and you have to run at the end when everyone else, you know, going home for the lunch, and all them different things that they try and get you out the club with, you know. And even Sturrock was sound that way. He pulled me pretty much straight away and said, look, you're not going to be part of my plans, and kind of changed it straight away as soon as you come in the door. So it was more than a shove than a walkout.
With that then, Guy,
when
you talk about the way he spoke to you, when he says, you know, you're not going to be part of my plans and stuff like that, would you, in a weird way, would you prefer it like that rather than getting undermined and that type of thing?
Yeah. I like, listen, I've met Paul Sturrock a lot since, and spent a lot of time with him since, and appreciate the man he is. That's the difference in with me. I'd rather be told straight, look, it's not going to work out, and let's move on and go and play football somewhere else, Guy. I had 18 months after Sheffield Wednesday with Oldham, which was, I probably played my best football, and until later on again when I played for Torquay. But you know, there's so many like bullshitters in football compared to the straight honest guys like Sturrock was, and you have to appreciate the honesty. And Chris Turner was like that. You know, Chris Turner wasn't given enough time at the football club, and it's not just because I think that he couldn't cope or you know, we were having a dodgy period. This bloke went and got Chris Brunt, Glenn Whelan, you know, John Paul, Lee Bullen, who's still there now, you know, made Proudie play top draw football, which not many managers have done. You know, he went and got the young lads through the youth system, which, you know, Richie and Louis, you know, were top draw. He obviously got Dave Lucas in there, who became obviously a top keeper for you, Hickey Bottom, and Sturrock added to that with his players and made them, you know, the side that they ended up becoming. But going back to your original question, yeah, of course I track them. You know, it's an amazing part of my career. I'm watched now and see the disappointment of where they're at, and not because they need to be in the Premier League, but the structure and the organisation behind the scenes looks in disarray. It's a massive shell of a football club, and it should be probably a lot further than it is now compared to the way it was going under Sturrock. That was 10, 15 years ago. Times are hard. The new owner seems to be doing stuff, or the old owner now seems to be doing stuff, off the cuff. No set out plan. Where do you go with an owner like that? You stay away from him as an employee. You try and keep away from that sort of thing. But the club could be a monster, a powerful beast in the Premier League if done properly. They should have got out the training ground as soon as you won promotion because it was too small. You should have moved and invested in and around the area. Probably moved to Stocksbridge and converted that into a training ground, or Uterbridge and places like that, and made it a bit more of an investment back into the football club. Dave Allen, by the way, was an unbelievable chairman, a great guy.
I was just going to ask that, because obviously for us, like, Dave Allen is a dark time in Sheffield Wednesday's history, especially towards the end. Obviously, Mandarich came in, everything suddenly got great, and then we were handed over to this Thai guy who was going to change the world, and he was, tuna books everywhere, and that hasn't really happened. But obviously, you went to Chesterfield later on in your career.
Tuna books.
He owns John West Tuna books.
Tuna books.
Okay. Tuna books. Okay, yeah, like that. No. Yeah, I went to Chesterfield, and I ended up working for him again.
Mm-hmm. So what is it like? Because we all see him as this harsh businessman who kind of, ran up bills, ran up loans for the club, and then walked away. And I think a lot of us as Sheffield Wednesday fans have seen what's happened to Chesterfield and gone, well, we told you so. We could have told you that was coming. But how was he to actually work for? That's also a question from Facebook. I was going to
No. I appreciate his shrewdness. He's an old school business owner, a bit like the Boovies of this world, and struggled paying people big money, and struggled in and around, I would say, vibrant characters, because the old school way of working was you have your boss and you can't really say anything to your boss because he walks past and he pays you your check, and and every year that's turned out different. Leaders are different sorts of beasts now, and I think that he wanted other people to run it because maybe he's seen it as that it's not my first love, and my first love is the casino, the dog tracks, and the businesses of that. And inevitably he's a big Sheffield Wednesday fan, and that's always a problem, I think, when you're running a passion, running an emotion rather than running a business. So I went over to Chesterfield with him. Ashley Carson, one of his mates who runs the company over the road from the ground, and I went and worked with them for 3 months, and was surprised how bad they were at organisation and football club management. Not in a disrespectful way. It's they didn't seem to have that urge anymore to go and run it properly. And Chesterfield's a fantastic football club as well, and they're getting the right people in place with the right sort of work ethic and attitude and application. There's only inevitably one way that way will go, and it's very hard to stop the rot for a period of time. But given time, the football club will inevitably turn because of the size of it, and you'll end up earning more money because of the size of it, and you'll end up taking on better players because of the size of it, because you'll attract better, and the positivity will turn around. I just think when you're running a club that you're emotionally connected to, it's very difficult to sometimes think straight because your emotions overtake your thought pattern. And I think that happened to Dave a lot at Sheffield Wednesday, and I think that it happened a lot at Chesterfield because he tried going into that project, I think, in my opinion, with a different idea of what he did with Sheffield Wednesday, but he went there with a genuine passion for the football club, and he thought he could save it from it spinning out of control. And he just didn't spend enough time there for it, just because when he used to turn up, even at Chesterfield for the 3 months I knew, he'd crack the whip and things would get done. When he wasn't there, no was getting done, no was moving quick. And the club now, Chesterfield Football Club, is run by John Croots, who was a community guy at the time. A fantastic guy, well liked by the council, well liked by the football ownership group now, and will hopefully turn that football club around. But inevitably, it's got to be run by people who know about football. And if you don't have people involved in football who know about football and how the intricate detail and how the football clubs work and how footballers work and how football agents work and how football staff work, then you will get caught out, because it's like no other business. And I've been around lots of businesses. It's like
that's incredible, that, because obviously, you know, that's the same issue that we've got at Sheffield Wednesday right now. We've got a guy in charge who's not a football man. You know what I mean? So I tell you what, listen, that's an hour. Dave, I'm going to come to you last, because I've been looking at your little face there, and I've only come to you the once. My apologies. Can you take us out this evening?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the question just to kind of tie in with your career in general, Guy. And this is an abstract question, but it's linked into how Wednesday are at the moment, maybe. So you've come through your career, you've had lots of loan spells, you've came down to a lower league from a Premier League club, and you've made a career. Obviously, you've only had your time once, and you make the best of what you've got. What's happening now more in football across the board is a lot of young players are coming into teams. They're doing well in the 18s and then the 23s, and they're getting a couple of games for the first team, and then they have got a very high opinion, or they appear to have a very high opinion of themselves straight away. And that's then causing clubs like Wednesday and many other clubs who have got young emerging talents not to be able to hold on to them, because these young lads have got such a high opinion of themselves, perhaps. So my question to you is, compared to what you did in your career to what a lot of these young lads are doing now, what is it that we can do to try and stop this sort of thing happening? Is there value in going out and playing loan football as a young footballer to get subjected to the men's game, if you like, in inverted commas? And what's your view on these young players that perhaps think they can run before they can walk?
Good ending. I personally, my job now is a loans manager at Leicester City, so I have them discussions a lot. Player pathways a big thing for me. Understanding player pathways. Everyone's an individual, and that's the most important thing, obviously, to understand. They're not all going to go down the same route as each other, and getting to know the players and probably building rapport with the players from, I would say, all levels of the club are very important for the player to buy into the football club. So if you want a player to stay, I would say club, it goes down to, we used to have a players lounge and it's Sheffield Wednesday. And I went through loads of clubs with no players lounge. I went through loads of clubs with players lounge. But I can always remember that the best clubs, that the best players stayed at for long periods of time, always had a players lounge where the lads felt secure they could be themselves. There were only families in there of their families and teammates, and very, very, very minimal staff. It might just be the barman or bar lady, or the lady who did the food, or the man who did the food, whichever way you want to look at it, and the odd person bouncing in and out. And Lindsay was a big pusher of that. We made sure that Lindsay was like the vibrant PR that she was and PA that she was, and inevitably was top class at all the rest of the stuff, because she went on to be the secretary of the football club and still does a tremendous job for the football club. So whenever I look back, if you ever want a player to buy into a football club, treat him right. Simple as that. Treat him right from top to bottom. So as soon as the player comes in the door, to when the player's leaving after training, to when the players' mum and dad are coming to the ground, that the stewards route to them on the car park or whatever, make sure these players are treated right, because then they'll treat the football club right, because inevitably they want to be footballers. And if they feel like they're being treated right by the football club, they won't need to stamp their heels, because they're at a massive football club anyway. Why would a young 19, 20-year-old want to leave Sheffield Wednesday when he sees a pathway into the first team? If he doesn't see a pathway into the first team, again, he's not being treated right. He should be shown that. And with the staff that's took over the first team, in Neil Thomas, Nicky Weaver, Lee Bullen, they should be only promoting that pathway into the first team right now, because inevitably their season's not going the way they want it to go anyway. and they should be looking to put players in from the youth system, or what's the point of having a youth system at the football club? You know, and you're spending millions of pounds on a youth system, so you've got to use it in the right way, and you're only going to produce players by making them feel wanted at a football club from top to bottom, from the age of 8 years of age to 23, when hopefully they're in the first team and they're the main people and they're the main guys. That answer the question, or was it too much?
It did.
Perfect. Yeah,
It did. Thank you so much for joining us, Guy. Apologies if you had a few sound issues tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as well. There's been all sorts of noises kicking off in my
ear. A horn then.
Yeah, it's what it sounds like. Ladies and gentlemen, he's probably got 22 quid stuffed up his Uta right now. Big round of applause for Guy Branston. Vic, take us off Facebook.
There we go.
The Wednesday week is sponsored by Michael Constantine Wealth Management. We bet you can't find a financial advisor closer to Hillsborough Stadium.